I can really punch above my weight, as an entrepreneur. And I'm armed with this like invisible army. So I always say like AI is like a secret co-founder that nobody really knows about. Give yourself the ability to use this, and allow yourself to leverage it because everyone else is. So you might as well start.
Hello and welcome to another episode of How I Use AI. This is a podcast that is trying to tell the real stories of real people using AI. I think it's really important. Everyone's talking about how amazing AI is, and I want to know real stories, real successes, real results, specifics, tools that are used. I want to know the tools that are really good and the ones that are really not worth bothering as well. So I'm interviewing real life people who are using AI in their everyday life from a range of different jobs and range of industries all around the world. So welcome to Neha today, who is an entrepreneur, Harvard Business Review writer, DEI champion, and a marketing consultant who's based in India, but she has clients all around the world. Neha, would you kindly please introduce yourself and give us a bit of background about who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that introduction. And like I said, I'm super excited to sit down and chat with you about all things AI. I think we've been connected for quite some time now, and I obviously consume a lot of your content, including your newsletter. And that's where I get most of my AI news from anyway. So a very, very big fan of yours and really glad to sit down with you. So I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a marketing consultant. I'm a business strategist. And I am also a productivity expert. I've written an article on time boxing in the Harvard Business Review. I've also just recently been featured in the New York Times as part of my work in time boxing and productivity.
Amazing.
Thank you. And I'm happy to chat with you today about AI and helping regular folks like us kind of adopt the tools and technologies and kind of demystify it a bit and understand how we can use it in our day-to-day workflows and processes.
Excellent. Wow, super impressive. So could I ask sort of what tools do you use in your everyday? What are you really rating at the moment?
Yeah, so I think like 99% of people who use AI, I probably use ChatGPT the most and Claude. I think these are my primary two tools. I'm also a big fan of Gamma, and I'll tell you a little later why. And I've also been using AI note takers, obviously, as part of meetings. And it's just that much easier to kind of stay present in the moment and not have to, sit and take notes while you're having a conversation. So that's been super helpful. In terms of the output of AI note takers, I think there's still a little ways to go when it comes to exact transcriptions, but we're getting there. So the summaries are really helpful, the action points and the takeaways are really helpful. And I'm also a big fan of, I don't know, a lot of people aren't talking about this, but I love the AI search summaries, the little summary that you get at the top of the search results page. I personally don't read beyond that 90% of the time because I get my answer right away.
Yep.
So I'm a big fan of that. So these are my main kind of AI tools and things in my AI stack.
Excellent. It's really interesting that you said Gamma because I'm recording 3 of these podcast episodes, and the Gamma came up as a disappointing tool in the last one. What tell us about what you like about it? Because I think it's good. I would say it has potential, but for me, the output, that final version, I know that you can add in your own branding colors, but the design just isn't there for me. Like, how do you feel about it?
So for me, primarily from a time-saving perspective, okay, I'll give you an example. So I basically created the content myself on a Google document, kind of gave it the context, and that was it, and it gave me a pretty good outline and structure, which would have saved me like 4 to 6 hours easily, having to, put the slides together. And then it's a question of like obviously going in and editing and refining it to make it, within your brand colors. You can use different fonts, so you can really customize it. That's what I really appreciated. So the time savings aspect of it. And I recently, I had a client reach out to me and saying, we need to do a pitch deck. So can you give us something really quickly? And it was like a 2-day turnaround. It was really, really short turnaround. So having to do all of that within that short time span would have been really difficult without like an AI tool.
Yeah.
And then obviously it's a question of, as a human going in and kind of perfecting it and refining it. So I always say AI is like a great collaboration tool, but it's not, I would never like depend on the end output itself because it's not there yet. Like you said, even with writing, AI doesn't have the capabilities yet. And I can't stand the way AI writes. Even if you tell it, no emojis, no M dashes, big chunky parts of text, I don't like any of that. So I think it still has a ways to go when it comes to writing and certain features. But for the most part, I think it's quite serviceable at the moment.
Yeah, I think that it's really interesting that it gets you a big chunk of the way. And I think a lot of people are really misunderstanding what it is in that they think it could one click and they'll get the result that they want. It's not that. It will take, something that used to take 4 days now takes 1 day, for instance. An example I'm using GenSpark, a super agent at the moment, which I can't believe how good it is. And it takes me, I'm building a Become an AI Trainer course right now. And it's like that collaborator. It's able to go back and forth. And each module will normally take me maybe 3 or 4 days to map out and to flesh out and to do the assessment to make sure everything's really good. I got each module done in a day. And
Yeah.
that is just transformative for me. That's unbelievable. And it's all about getting you that first chunk, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's like having a team of assistants working for you pretty much 24/7, right? Like
Yeah.
think of it as a really, really smart intern, but somebody who doesn't have an ego and who's willing to like learn and try things. And the better you prompt it, obviously the better your output. So you have to be really specific in telling it the context. Otherwise you're just going to get very generic kind of results. No matter what the tool is, like you said, it's not magic. It's not a one-click solution. You still bring in your kind of insights and recommendations and your context. I think that's the most important thing when it comes to any AI tool, whether it's a image based or video based or even text based kind of tool. Really have to prompt it well.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's really interesting you compared it to kind of having an assistant, because I think also it's like, as well as the enthusiasm and the energy and always being on and perhaps having a lesser kind of knowledge base than you, I think, in the way it works, it's also very keen to please you, isn't it? So it will always agree with you. It will always, if you state something as a fact, it will just go, yeah, that's right. And I think that's really something to be aware of, isn't it? Because if you need to explicitly say, critically analyze what I'm saying, go against, don't be afraid to kind of disagree with me, because it's naturally programmed to be so agreeable, and that's wonderful and it feels nice to use, but it's not very productive, I don't think.
Yeah. So, and I also feel like one of the main drawbacks and challenges at the moment is obviously the hallucination. I think it's really challenging to kind of, and so you have to be really critical. You have to fact check everything that comes out of it because you never know. Like if you ask for a source, it's like, oh yeah, maybe I was kind of like like making stuff. Not it wouldn't say making stuff up, but it'd be like, yeah, I based it off of the context that you gave me. But you should always like critically evaluate every single output that comes out of it, especially if you're going to be using it, in a commercial setting and a perspective. So I would never kind of copy paste any output blindly. I think it doesn't serve the purpose and it's not fit to purpose. So I think it's you have to play around with the tool. You have to collaborate with the tool and challenge it back. Like you said, ask it to challenge you and push back, but you do the same with it. Ask for reasoning, ask for logic about why it's come up with certain things. And I think that really helps the tool kind of perfect itself and get better and learn from you.
Yeah.
And like I said, give it like tons of context.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, like you say, exactly that. It's learning how to communicate with this technology, isn't it? It might understand us conversationally, but you still need to put in certain parameters and, like you say, kind of push back on it. Definitely. I think it's also important to be in the hands of the expert, because you can't say, if it was a copywriter, a person who's never done any copywriting can't possibly write a really good prompt. So I've know a lot of businesses at the beginning, it's less so now, and I think people are understanding this now, that they say, I don't need a copywriter, I'll just have an all-purpose intern that can do our copywriting for us, our editing for us. They can't describe what good looks like, so therefore they can't write about good prompts, and they can't recognize it the other side to critically analyze the results.
So I think a lot of people underestimate AI, but then there's a whole segment of people that really overestimate what AI can do. And I've also heard talk about, being in the marketing industry. I've heard people say, oh, I don't need a marketer. I don't need a strategist. I have AI. I was like, good luck, go ahead, prompt it the best you can and see the output it gives you. And then, take an informed decision, because it's very easy to kind of imagine and visualize what it's going to be, what your results are going to be. But unless you've tried it, you never really know what what it spits out at you. So um, I think the trick really is to use it as a partner. And for somebody who's never used AI, right, I think you need to really start small. Like, don't go out there and try 10 different tools on day one. You're going to get overwhelmed. You're going to get worried, and you're going to get frustrated, and you're going to put it aside. So there's really no point over committing. So commit to just one or maybe two tools for certain use cases. So for example, you want to research something or you want to edit something. So give it a specific output or a task that it needs to do. And yeah, just play around with it. Try to, even with the same task, and once you get the output, refine your own input and see what comes out once you do that. So tweak your prompts. And I think another thing that's really helped me is obviously like learning from people who are like at the cutting edge of kind of AI adoption and usage, right? So for example, there's somebody on LinkedIn Learning called Dave Burse, and he has a whole kind of multiple libraries of prompts, and I think he has a newsletter as well. I'm actually connected with him because I took a couple of his LinkedIn Learning courses, and I loved them. And they were so simple because he kind of explained AI in a way that was really easy to like digest and understand. And
My
that
dad did
really
that.
gave me the confidence to start. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, this isn't that hard. I can figure this out. So I think it's just find your kind of the resources that work for you, or the content creators that have, and there's so many people, and yourself included, who are doing such great work around getting people to really adopt AI and use it on a day-to-day basis. I've had a friend recently, it's hilarious, but she literally showed us in a book, we're all in a book club together, and she showed us how she uses AI as a mentor and a coach and kind of like a therapist. And I thought that was such an incredible use of AI because it has so much context on her already.
Yeah.
So why not kind of, take it to another level? I personally have used it for like things like travel planning, and give me the best restaurants to go to in a particular city in New York, for example. Um, so there's literally no limit to what you can use it for. It's just you need to like think about how you want to use it, and obviously like be goal oriented in that you use it for a specific use case. And then once you start doing it, I think you get the confidence, and you build that muscle memory or whatever it's called. You start
Yeah.
to get better at it as you go.
Yeah. I think that kind of when people ask me that question, how do I get started? Like you say, there's so much out there, and it really does go into every area of your life, inside and outside of work. And for me, it's something I grab as easily now as the internet. It's that integrated into my day. I very rarely Google nowadays. I know that you're into for me, it's all about this kind of more bespoke advice. And like you say, with ChatGPT knowing so much about me, and in the UK, we don't even have the full memory. Have you got that in India, the full memory yet, actually, where it can
Yeah.
remember
So
everything?
so you can so ChatGPT remembers practically all of our conversations.
Yeah.
And I could reference like a different conversation or a different chat I've had with it and be like, remember the results or remember the context from this and apply it here. And I get pretty close to where I'm going because there are limits, right, on the free plan. So you have to kind of be creative about how you use different chats and things like that. And then that's why I have like a backup, because if ChatGPT is over the limit and I need something urgently, I go into Claude and vice versa. And I think for the most part, the results are pretty similar. Like I haven't noticed too much of a drastic difference. For the longest time, I resisted having ChatGPT on my phone. But now that I have it, I can't do without it, and I feel so ashamed. I'm not ashamed, but you know what I mean. Like it's maybe am I getting too dependent on this technology? Am I telling it too much of my secrets?
Oh,
And that's
I
that's
think
like
exactly the same thing all the time. I think, oh wow, this is I probably am officially dependent on this stuff now. But like you said, it's a really good point about the two different having a backup, because they glitch all the time, don't they? I actually did a ChatGPT workshop, and at the beginning of the workshop live, all these people, ChatGPT went down, and it went down for
that
hours.
would have been
So I
peaceful.
just said this is now going to be a Claude workshop, and we'll focus in on so being able to kind of switch between the two, because when you start using these tools, they become very important to you. It's like having, for those who use Microsoft, it's like having Word go down, or for those who use Google, it's like the whole of, imagine Google Drive goes down, Google Workspace, and you can't access anything. It starts to
Yeah.
feel, oh, what do I do now? And it even with AI, note takers is another one. So I find with
Yeah.
AI note takers, when they don't attend, sometimes they don't arrive in a meeting, and I suddenly think, oh, where's my pad of paper gone? I've got to remember how I did it before. I've changed that much. So, what would you say to somebody who is just starting out, and they are a bit cynical, a bit dubious about all things AI, and they have got maybe 20 to 50 pounds to spend per month, and they're saying, right, okay, I do want to get into this, but where would you recommend that they start, and what sort of lessons did you learn at the beginning?
Okay. That's a really good question. I would put a zero budget to it for the first 3 months at least. Because I don't think you need to get like the latest and the most advanced version of ChatGPT, for example, or any of the paid versions of it. Because unless you try it, I don't think you know how it works and whether it works for you or not. And then the other thing I would say is obviously start smaller. Like I said, kind of there's a lot of great content and resources available for free anyway. So start leveraging those to begin with. What I do that really helps, and what I did in the past, at least in the initial few months or up to a year, was set aside dedicated time per week to really like play with it, and put it in your calendar and have it like non-negotiable time. Because if you don't commit to it, it's just gonna fall off, and you're never gonna get to it. Because there's everyone's busy, everyone has a million things to do. There's never enough time in a day. Ask me, like, we're entrepreneurs, we'd never have enough time. But if you don't um, carve out time for it, it's never going to happen. So
Yep.
do like a week, an hour a week, start small, start there, and then build on top of that. Like, just try to subscribe to a few newsletters if you can't do anything else. If you don't want to start prompting and testing right away, do that, and just read, consume as much content as you can around AI as a topic. Set up like Google alerts or whatever it takes. Um, Another great resource is obviously like podcasts and long form content, and there are obviously like smaller podcasts and bite-sized pieces that you can dip in and out of in your day, 15 minutes, like hours, or 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever time you have and you want to set aside, make a plan and kind of commit to it and stick to it. And I think that's a great way to get started. So first 3 months, I would say don't even spend any money.
I think that's excellent advice. I love that. And that's like something I learned probably years in, is that non-negotiable experimentation time. I started calling it playtime, and then I had to call it experimentation because I ended up just saying, oh, booking things over it, as entrepreneurs do. We're always got, a million things to do. So I ended up not doing it. But actually, when you're thinking about that hour could save you 10,000, it might not be that specific hour, but if you put in sort of 10 hours over 10 weeks, you are very likely to save at least 1,000 times that amount, at least, probably more. It's well worth it.
Yeah, and the results really start to stack. Haven't you noticed? Like, for example, as a small team, or like I started as a solopreneur, now I just have one or two other people in my team, like one full-time and a couple of part-time people. I can really punch above my weight, as an entrepreneur. And I'm armed with this like invisible army. So I always say like AI is like a secret co-founder that nobody really knows about. Give yourself the ability to use this, and allow yourself to leverage it, because everyone else is. So you might as well start, and I feel like at the pace we're headed, and at the scale of expansion and like really mass scale adoption, I think if you don't use AI for even the most basic things and build on top of that, I think you're just going to be left behind, because like people who are AI powered are getting better output faster. You can save that time and use it for things like strategic thinking and planning and deep work and things like that. That stuff that AI doesn't really do as well yet, but as a human, we have the ability to do that. So it's kind of like figuring out your own strengths, kind of playing to your own strengths, and then outsourcing the rest that eats up too much of your time, or that you don't want to kind of waste precious resource on.
Yeah, so a great way to start would be, and actually I think I started saying this earlier and didn't finish. When people ask me where to start, I just say map out what you do in a week, and then put a tick against the things you don't enjoy that much, and then let's start off and see if AI can help you with that, because chances are it probably can. Lots of repetitive, researchy type tasks, analysis tasks it can do, gathering data, distilling data, creating draft content, editing things, creating processes. And that's, yeah, it's just the very beginning of it, really.
Just the other day, I had a 75-page document that I had to go through. I obviously didn't want to do that, so I just made ChatGPT kind of read it and summarize the key points, and then tell me like action items. Another use case I had recently was I was studying for a French exam, and I had ChatGPT, actually Claude and ChatGPT both, um, correct like my written exercises, help
Wow.
me transcribe listening exercises. So that was really helpful because I would need a human, coach to kind of do that. And I did have a human coach, but this was like an extra layer,
Yeah.
that it could help with. So there's literally, I can't think of anything that I can't do with AI.
Yeah.
think
To
it's
some
that
degree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to some degree. At least get words on a page, and then it's your job to kind of perfect that and improve that, or at least get some thoughts down and ideas down, and then you kind of build on top of that. Because like there's nothing harder than staring at a blank page or a blank document. It's the hardest thing in the world. So if you have some starting point, and then you want kind of AI to partner with you to kind of improve that, or work with you through that as a sounding board, why not?
Yeah, exactly. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much. That was a fountain of value. So much, so
Wow.
many good thoughts there. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for joining us, Neha. And how do
Thank
people
you,
get
Heather.
in contact with you if they'd like to get in touch?
So LinkedIn is the best way to kind of reach out to me, because I'm very, very active on LinkedIn. I also have a newsletter, which one of the topics and one of the key themes is obviously AI and things that I have personally tested and used. So I share like prompts that I've tried or new tools that I've been using or exploring. So that would be a nice way to kind of start, I guess, with content around AI for someone who's pretty much never used any AI tool and wants to kind of get their feet wet and get started.
Perfect. I'll put the link underneath. I'll get the link from you and put it underneath the show notes. So thank you
Amazing.
so much again. And yeah, I'll speak to you soon. Hopefully, we'll have further conversations. Thank you very
Absolutely.
much.
Thank you so much, Heather. Thanks a lot.
Bye.